Hello, and welcome to Earhorn. My name is Archie, and today we're looking at the Ask Reddit question, what is the most superhuman thing you have ever seen anyone do? If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe for more. I knew a dude in high school who over the course of one party had 30-ish shots. I saw him the next morning at a store like 9 o'clock, looking completely normal. I still cannot believe that he didn't die. I had my Chevy 1500 fall on me. The jack slid out and the jack stand folded under the weight. The rotor pinned my thigh to the ground. My stepbrother, who was like 5'6", mind you, grabbed the bumper and lifted the truck up enough that I was able to slide out. Didn't break anything, but tore a lot of muscle on my thigh. I thank him every time I see him, because it messed up his back. He's not a big guy. What he did was a feat of strength that I do not think I could do, and I'm a lot bigger than he is. I saw a cop pull over and arrest another cop, but nobody believes me. My granddad. I know everyone thinks their family is a bit like this when they're a kid, but he's slightly different. For context, he is a slight 5'4" average man, retired to a warm country nearby, usually 30 to 35 degrees Celsius in summer. These stories are from when he was about 72 to 77 years old. I once turned up at the airport to see him, and Grandma picked me up because he was busy. Turns out busy was that he'd looped rope around the chimney stack, 2-story house, and was hanging out of another loop almost upside down, painting the house with no visible way of having got up there except climbing the rope from the roof. My gran took me to the supermarket, and when we got back, he was 35 feet up in a pine tree sawing a branch that was getting in the way of his view of the green on the golf course next to us. He was stood on the branch he was sawing. Me and him went to the hardware store, and on the way home he became convinced that the suspension in his 90s Toyota was squeaking. I do car stuff too and couldn't hear it. In the time I took to go around the house and get into my swimming trunks, he'd got the car up on a jack and axle stands, dropped the whole rear axle off the car, dismantled one of the hubs, and was sat on a tire inspecting a bush. He asked me to dig a short trench for some lemon trees. Due to the hard volcanic soil and the 35 degrees Celsius heat at 11 a.m., after 2 hours I gave up and went for an ice cream, planning to try again at 3 p.m. I came back at 2 p.m., and he'd finished it himself. I'd not even gotten 1/3 of the way through. I once came back from the beach and found him balanced on one leg on the top step of a ladder under the eaves of the house. In one hand, he had a full-size workshop air compressor, the big on-wheels kind, and the other hand was spraying under the roof tiles. He was coughing furiously. I went inside and asked my grandma what was going on. She told me he'd fill the air compressor with a weak chlorine he'd made from pool supplies and was trying to smoke out some bats. I went back out and could see the bats were just staring back at him. He gave up soon after. I could barely lift the compressor on the ground. My dad was really smart with math. Every time I asked him about an equation or formulas, he would always know in a second what to do. He helped me to understand math and how to use it. Later on, I asked him why didn't he become a math professor. It was because he had PTSD and didn't want to affect the school children with his traumatic backslashes and see him sad. Sadly, he passed away in 2018 of a heart attack at the age of 50. I work in a major trauma hospital in London, and we once had this young boy arrive in the middle of the night whose arm, from the elbow down, had been completely sliced off by a machete. The policeman arrived a few minutes later looking as white as a sheet, holding a bag with the arm inside. This boy is knocking at death's door. The arm has a tourniquet on, but he has lost so much blood that even after 16 units, the highest we could get his blood pressure was around 87 systolic. Within about 5 minutes of being inside our department, the boy gets rushed off to theater, and when we turn the corner, all of a sudden we see the trauma surgeon running along the theater floor. His sterile gown flying behind him looks like a gosh dang cape, and it's like something out of a freaking movie. I wasn't present for the surgery, but I know he did it. He spent about 15 hours, but he reattached all the vessels, the ligaments, and everything that needed to be done for that arm. I think after a few months it was pretty much fully functional again. Might seem pretty non-superhero, but to me he is a superhuman. My wife survived when I gave her a Dutch oven in bed after a Budweiser and burritos feast. Ex-boyfriend shattered the windshield on my car with his fist. Too bad he didn't use his powers for good. I got my finger trapped in my bike chain when I was reattaching it to the cog. My finger wasn't able to just pull out or even move the chain. My dad came out and snapped the chain in half as if it was nothing. When I was in college, all students in our city used to go party in the same street that's filled with bars. In a street, there's also a fries shop where the owner would take like 10 to 15 people's orders at a time without writing them down, and he'd never mess up an order. He was a living legend, and I've never met a person who studied in this city that didn't eat at that place. Like, it would be 4 a.m., and there would be lines of drunk students out the door, and not once have I seen or heard of an order being messed up while nothing gets written down. It's insane. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. His son took over the business and shares the same talent. Maybe trivial, but I find it cool that my girlfriend can taste pretty much any food once and identify most of the ingredients, or at least trace amounts of one particular ingredient. Her. This cake has nutmeg. This fried chicken has ginger. This brownie has coconut oil. This crappy lemonade slush has basil? WTF? This caviar spread has egg, mayonnaise, cream cheese, and choose a bit more. Some onion. Me eating a brown cake. This is chocolate. Edit. She tasted a carrot cake and determined that yogurt was mixed into the batter. I mean, how the heck? My guardian once forgot to set the parking brake. He was working under the car. It ran over him and stopped. Then he just lifted it off and walked away with a bruised arm. I was like 5 at the time. Me and my dad were at a hockey game, and a puck nearly hit me in the head, and my dad just grabbed it out of thin air. My husband lifted the front of a Volkswagen car off of a child who had been hit and had his neck under the front wheel. This saved his life, and he was awarded by the police and our city. In New Zealand, after the Christchurch earthquake a few years ago, there was random footage of people helping at collapsed buildings, etc. In the background of one shot, clearly not really noticed by anyone at the time, was a dude picking up massive chunks of concrete walls/building and was just tossing it out of the way like it was made of paper. The country as a whole nicknamed him Incredibro Hulk. His response, once media figured out who he was that the weight of what he was grabbing hadn't even occurred to him. He just knew there was potentially still people alive under it, so it had to go. My dad was trying to get into knife throwing. One of my younger brothers grabbed a throwing knife and throws it at another younger sibling. My dad reaches out and grabs the knife, point first, before it does any damage. He was barely cut due to the thick calluses from his job. I was only 12 at the time, and I was really impressed about how good his reflexes were. I do logistics for a living. One day I have a customer come and pick up a 105 kilogram front load washer. I pull the trolley out from under it and push it to the side. As I turn back, he squats down and grabs it under one arm and without noticeable effort just puts it up on the back of a truck. It literally looked like he picked up a 3-year-old child. Dude looked like he's never even seen a barbell. In high school, my marching band director could control the weather. We lived in the rainy south near the coast, where summer storms were common. It never rained during practice, all 4 years of high school. The one time it did, the director threw his little clipboard on the ground and just stared up at the sky. And it just stopped. He was a strange man. My dad hated flat soda, so he closes the bottles extra tight. Sometimes it's too tight for anyone to open. However, my mom, who's chill, always tired, and seemingly frail, does this trick where she puts her fingers at her temple, mumbles "power," and then hunches over the 2-liter bottle and twists the cap open in a fraction of a second. It is freaking amazing to me. I worked at McDonald's for a summer with this tiny old Asian guy named Panya. He had 3 jobs and spoke very little English. Every now and then, Anya would spend $100 to pay for 100 ice cream cones, and then say, "Ice cream free today," and let kids get ice cream without paying for it. He also exemplified the old Asian kung fu master stereotype and did backflips in the store lobby, which was pretty cool. I was working in a clinic and a mum brought in a floppy blue newborn baby. The doctor on duty was a man who stands 6'6". We put the baby on a trolley and the doctor undressed the baby and laid his hand on the baby's body. The doctor's hand pretty much covered the baby's whole body. The doctor then directed me and 2 other nurses as to what he wanted us to do. He was so calm and so clear, and he saved that baby's life. The baby had pneumonia and hypothermia. Baby spent 2 weeks in ICU. I only worked with him for a short while and never really told him how awesome he was saving that baby. I know that's what doctors are supposed to do, but he did it so well and so gracefully. When I was a 6th grader, I rode the bus home. Halfway through the route, the bus would pick up kids from another school. These kids would often encourage the bus driver to speed over dips and bumps as it would launch the kids a few inches in the air. She never did it until one time when she took a bump at 45 miles per hour. Kids hit the luggage racks, flew across seats, and the emergency door at the back flew open, and this 10-year-old kid fell out of the bus. Now, the bus was slowing down at this point, but still traveling fairly quickly, and this kid rolled back to his feet in one fluid motion, sprinted up to the bus, and leapt the 5 or so feet back through the doorway, like he wasn't forcibly ejected from a moving vehicle. So what's the most superhuman thing you've seen someone do? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching.